So welcome everybody. This is Video Creation for Remote Learning. My name is Jon Cano and I'm joined by Carissa Krug and Nicholas Bonnet. We are students in the master's program for Learning Design and Technology at the University of Colorado in Denver. And the purpose of our presentation today is to sort of get people a little bit more comfortable with video editing, video production. If you're here, then you probably are looking for a little bit of guidance on just getting started, or maybe maybe you have a karate video that you shot that needs a little bit of polish on it. And we're going to help you sort of identify some issues that can actually be fixed very easily. Now, I'm going to quickly have Carissa and Nick introduce themselves, and we'll sort of get into the heart of the matter here. Go ahead, Carissa.
Hey everyone, I am Carissa. Like Jon said, I'm also in the same program, the Learning Design and Technology Master's Program at the University of Colorado, Denver. I am formerly an elementary school educator and then moved into supervising students on a college campus, and now I do purchasing for a medical clinic, so a little bit of everything. But the reason that I kind of became involved in or became interested in video editing is I love personal finance. I love talking about personal finance. And so I wanted an opportunity to do that more. And so I decided to start a YouTube channel and knew nothing about creating videos and had to really quickly learn how to do that in hopefully a way that is engaging and will allow people to learn something. And so I am a part of this group because I really wanted to help you all to learn some of those tools. That way, if you're looking to create any videos in the future, you have some really basic tools that will help you hit the ground running.
Thanks, Carissa. Go ahead, Nick.
Hi, everybody. My name is Nick Bonnet. I'm also in the same cohort with Carissa and Jon. I am a former secondary educator. I taught middle school ELA for 5 years. And then, but really I got into video creation through what I do on the side, which is I'm a musician on the side. So I do a lot of recording and I do a lot of visual recording as well. So not just audio. So I really got into that after shooting so many bad videos for like Facebook and things like that. I was like, man, I really should probably learn some like basic principles here, and maybe that would help get some more views and look a little bit more professional. So I'm really happy everyone's here, and yeah, hopefully you get something from us today.
Yeah, thanks, Nick. Yeah, we've had fun actually putting this together. Obviously, a little humor doesn't hurt if you saw the lead in here. So for me personally, I came into the sort of instructional design world. I was also a high school science teacher once upon a time, and transitioned from that into adult training in the healthcare world. And now I am a, well, how do I describe it? I'll just say software trainer at a large hospital here in Tampa, Florida. And so a while back, it occurred to me that a lot of training is going online, it's going remote, it's going asynchronous, which is why a lot of us are in this program. And wow, was that correct? And a lot of us in the instructional world who weren't even thinking along those lines are now being thrust into, okay, guess what? You're a classroom instructor, you're a classroom teacher. Well, now you're an online instructor, and it's time for you to produce a bunch of content. And so if you find yourself writing that sort of, high wave of pressure to get all this stuff out, whether it's in a school district or in a corporate environment, hopefully we can provide something for you tonight. So we've asked you this question before, but I just want to get a baseline, just on a scale of 1 to 10, if you could just respond with how comfortable you are with enhancing or correcting video footage. And obviously, if you have the skill set of a baby orangutan, then you're going to select option 1. But if you're as good as Stanley Kubrick, go ahead and scroll down and click on 10. Stanley Kubrick is dead. I don't expect any 10s. Okay. So most of you have voted. Looks like the mode and the mean is about 3 out of 10. So you're in the right place, because I'm here to tell you that what we're going to show you is actually going to probably lower your blood pressure a little bit thinking about this type of stuff. So on my screen, of course, you can see that what our illustration is sort of showing that video production is a multi-step process. There's lots of phases to it. You have to plan the thing. You have to decide what your instructional, what your budget is, and what your constraints are. You have to shoot the thing, record it, however that's going to be. And finally, you have to actually refine and edit your product together before you can actually publish it. So that's what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about the three aspects that we thought were broadly audio, visual, and scene editing. So Nick's going to start us off talking about some easy improvements you can do in audio in a video recording. And then we're going to pass it to Carissa, who's going to talk about improving the actual appearance of the images on the screen. And then my portion will be scene editing, essentially making your finished product a little bit more cohesive. And so with that, I'm going to put everyone into, I'm going to stop my screen share for a second, and I'm going to put everyone into rooms. Where are my rooms at?
So as Jon is getting those rooms sorted, I'm going to tell you a little bit about what we're going to be doing in those rooms. So we're going to get split into 3 different rooms so we can look at 3 of those different aspects. In our presentation, we're kind of coming at it from the idea that you have created a video of some sort to be able to share with your company, and it's not great yet. And so we need to take it to the next level. And so we're going to all watch that video, and then either Jon, myself, or Nick will kind of share what you should be looking for as you're watching that video.
That is correct. Chat, share screens. I'm, guys, struggling to find my rooms control. Rooms.
I can maybe set this up to you.
So I can give you a little bit more backstory about the video. So obviously coronavirus is happening. We're all very aware of that. And so we are coming at it from this lens that you've been tasked with creating a video all about the big 5 safety and health recommendations that you want all of your employees to be participating in, even if they're working from home, so that they can stay safe and healthy and continue working. And so we have basically pre-created some of the clips in this video. We've recorded some of the clips, put them together, threw them together really quickly. And we're going to kind of show you where the video is at now, just kind of with throwing the clips together very quickly. And then we want you to look for how it can be taken to the next level and how it can be improved.
Right. I'm going to invite Nick here to take control of the screen and open these rooms for me.
Okay.
I seem to be missing a button.
All right. Okay. And sorry, everybody.
Let's just do it as a whole group.
That is my thought.
Yeah.
Okay. So for whatever reason, folks, the rooms are not enabled in our meeting here. So good news is we're all going to be watching the same video, even if it was going to be in different rooms. So what I'll do is I will share my screen. And I'm going to eliminate bad video from my screen. Okay. And so guys, what we're going to do is we're going to demonstrate, like we said, 3 different aspects of it. So while you're watching this video, I want you to think about what you would fix on the audio side. Go ahead and post it in chat or write it down. What you would fix as far as the images on the screen and how you think that the scenes could be cut together better, either sequencing, length, what have you. So I'm going to go ahead and share this now. I need to share my actual audio as well.
Jon, we're not seeing the image.
I have it pulled up as well, John, if you need me to share.
Must take precautionary measures to protect.
There we go.
Due to the rapid spread of COVID-19 coronavirus, employers must take precautionary measures to protect themselves and others. This video serves as a reminder to our employees to always follow the Big Five from the Centers for Disease Control. Clean your hands often. Wash your hands for 20 seconds, especially after visiting a public place. Use soap and water. If soap and water is not available, use a hand sanitizer that contains at least 60% alcohol. Measure 2. Avoid close contact. Stay at home whenever you can. Put as much distance between yourself and non-household members as much as possible. The CDC recommends a distance of at least 6 feet. Measure 3. Cover your mouth and nose with a cloth face cover when around others. Remember, the cloth mask is not a substitute for social distancing. Measure 4. Cover coughs and sneezes. Remember to use a tissue or the inside of your elbow to cover coughs and sneezes. Wash your hands immediately after coughing or sneezing. Measure 5. Clean and disinfect. Frequently touched surfaces should be disinfected daily. These include items such as doorknobs, light switches, counters, handles, phones, keyboards, mice, and sinks. Most household disinfectants will work just fine. We thank you for your efforts in preventing the spread of COVID-19. Please refer to the CDC website for additional information on the virus and more in-depth precautionary measures.
All right, friends, a lot of good response in the chat. As you may be suspecting at this point, a lot of these issues were deliberate. I hope you understand that. And we're leading you down the primrose path, and you've identified a lot of the issues that we discussed and when we decided to create that little instructional video. So if you're the clinical educator, you're sitting in the edit bay, oh my gosh, what have I just created? We got to fix this. And so as promised, we're going to start with, and I do appreciate the feedback from everybody in chat. That's going to help us address and acknowledge you guys and your recognition. Nick will take us through fixing some of those audio issues that you identified.
Awesome. Yeah, again, thank you so much for the great feedback that we got in the chat. I was trying to get down some notes, but you guys were giving me a lot. So hopefully I get to everybody, and I credit your ideas here. But yeah, really what I'm seeing here, I saw things like fuzzy vocals, too loud. Megan said maybe too close to the mic, background noise. So there's a lot of different feedback here, some feedback on the background music as well. So really we're gonna kind of split up our chat about audio into two different categories. The first is going to be kind of those preventative measures. So those are the measures that you can take before you start recording to kind of guarantee, or at least be a little bit more confident that your audio is going to come out more professionally. The second category of some of your comments was more like things that we could do in editing kind of in the back end to fix some of those audio mistakes. So I'm going to share my screen here for our first point, which I believe somebody mentioned, which is, it sounded like they were speaking too closely to the microphone. So the first thing I would like to talk about is just microphone placement. Microphone placement seems kind of elementary, but it's really important to guarantee that your audio comes out professionally, because if you don't do it correctly, then you're going to come out with those fuzzy vocals. It's going to be too loud or too quiet. So I listed some different microphone setups that are pretty common. This handout that's on the slide can also be found in our handout that you can view if you'd like now, or you can look at later, but it is there for you if it's a little too small. But the first microphone setup would be like the desktop microphone. That is usually clamped to like a desk, or it's on your, you know, on a little stand on your desk or something like that. For that, you want to be 6 to 12 inches away from your mouth to the microphone. So a way to measure that easily, just a quick check, and I do this all the time when I'm doing like a gig or something. I mentioned I was a musician, so I just check with the microphone. I put my thumb up to my lips and my pinky out, and that's about 6 inches away. So if you wanted to make it 12 inches, you could do 2 of those guys back to back, but that will kind of give you the best possible sound for that microphone setup. The other microphone you might be using is just straight from your phone. Generally, you don't want to be too far away from your phone. You want to be about 4 inches away. So you don't want to be right on top of it, and you don't want to do like the grandma, like trying to look at your photo on your phone, like arm extended way out. You don't want to do that either. The headset microphone is what I'm using right now. Generally, that's going to be about 1 inch away from your lips, and you are going to want to point that below your lips. Not in the center or above, because you don't want to get that air interruption from you know, your nose or your mouth. So important to check that and where it's positioned on your face. And then the last one that's very common is the earbud microphone. Generally, that's a box, and it's already kind of pre-positioned for you, so that you don't usually have to worry about it, but just make sure that you're wearing your headphones correctly, that they're not dangling on your shoulder or something like that. So just real quick, I want you to just check whatever your microphone, you know, whatever microphone you're using right now, just do a quick little check. If you're using the desktop microphone, do a little check of 6 to 12 inches here with your hand. If you're doing a phone microphone, do a little 4-inch check, which is about the width of your hand. Make sure that you're not too far away from your phone. Or headset, do a 1 inch, which is about the width of your thumb. Or the earbud, again, is about 4 inches. So just do a little quick check right now. I know it seems a little silly, but it is really helpful to do those checks. See if you're doing everything correctly here. I'll just give you a second. Cool. So just really easy ways to kind of prevent some of those issues. The other thing that somebody mentioned, several of you, Laura, Melissa, Shauna, maybe others, mentioned the background noise. So this is a pretty common problem, especially now that we're all working from home. You know, there may be kids or pets running around. I know my pet doesn't really run around, but my cat snores really loudly. He might need like a CPAP. I'm not sure if they do that for cats, but I'd like to invest in one. But yeah, I have to wake up my cat before I record anything because he snores so loudly. So it's examples like that, turning off your phone, or, you know, turning it onto airplane mode if you're using it to record. Turning off fans, washing machines, things like that, closing windows. Really easy ways to kind of prevent some of that noise. So not having that motorcycle in the background. And then the last little bit on preventative measures is just your equipment that you're using. I won't spend too much time on this. I do have a little link in the handout if you want to look at more professional equipment, but just make sure what you do have works. So if you notice that there's crackling or anything in your headphones or microphone, you probably want to replace it to make sure that you get the best quality audio that you can possibly get. We're going to move on to fixes that you can do during editing. And so I'm going to start demonstrating in Camtasia, which is the program we chose just to base on our editing with today. But before we do that, I just wanted to bring up a point about audio, is that you don't even need to really listen to audio to be able to spot if there's going to be potential problems. So just taking a look here, and I hopefully share the sound here, but even if you don't have the sound, which ones do you think belong to which? So if I said, and feel free to put it in the chat or unmute yourself, but if I said number 1, is this too loud, too quiet, or just right? What would you say for number 1 here?
Too quiet.
Too quiet, definitely. You can see the wavelengths are really, really small, which means it's gonna come out really quiet. How about number 2? Too quiet, too loud, or just right?
Loud.
Too loud. It looks like somebody's typing in all caps, but the audio version of that, right? So that's gonna be too loud. That's gonna cause clipping, which we'll get into in a second. And then the third one is gonna be our just right, if we're doing a Goldilocks here. So that you can kind of see it's in the middle of these two. So with clipping, that's just distortion that happens when your audio is too loud. And what you want to look for with that is these high plateaus in your audio clip. If you see that in your audio clip, you're probably going to have to re-record it, because once you go that loudly, your audio gets distorted and you can't really come back from that. If you do it too quietly, if you have a number 1 situation here, you can amplify that, and we'll go over that in a second. And then the last little bit before we get into Camtasia, somebody mentioned the background music. The beginning music is very ominous and dark, and maybe a little too heavy, considering the topic is already kind of heavy itself. So maybe we want to try something a little bit different. So you can hop over, this is what I use, it's free source. It's called the YouTube Audio Library. People just dump a lot of free music into here. That's perfect for making videos. So you can sort by the genre or the mood. So say, oh yeah, dance and electronic funky music, that's exactly what I need. Maybe that would be a little bit more uplifting than the ominous dark music that we used. So that's a really good way to fix any sort of background music that maybe is not appropriate. All right, so we're gonna get into Camtasia now. So I'm gonna share my screen here. Cool. And I know some of you aren't familiar with Camtasia, so I just wanted to quickly do like a little orientation on how the program works, mostly just the kind of sections of the screen that you're looking at. So the very middle part is your preview screen. So this is just what your video looks like so far. And you can see it's just a standard like play, rewind kind of functionality here, pretty straightforward. If you go below that here, this is our timeline, and this is where we drag and drop our video, our audio, our pictures, and you can see the time markers here. This is at 10 seconds, 20 seconds, and you can see the length of how long these last. So this is kind of our timeline where we piece everything together. If you look on the left side of the screen here, there's some options. Our main ones we're gonna focus on today are gonna be the media bin. This is where we dump all of our videos and pictures and audio, which we end up dropping into our production here. That's how we get it in. And then we'll also be looking at this annotations box, which is how you insert text into your video. And then the very last thing I wanted just to point out is this right side of the screen. So if I click on any of these clips, it will bring up some options here. This one is for audio. And you can see there's some different options. So the very first thing I wanted to show you guys was how to mute your audio. So say, for example, in this sneezing video here, maybe you didn't want the sound of the sneeze in your actual video. Maybe that kind of clashes with the voiceover narration, or you just don't like how it sounds, it's a little grating. You can go and select the clip here, right click, and there's actually an option to silence the audio. So that takes the audio completely out of the video, which is great when you're doing a voiceover narration, which I highly recommend doing because it gives you a little bit more control over the sound quality of your video. So that's how you silence audio that you don't want. For the next point, which was maybe your volume's not quite right, maybe it's too high, too low. Like I said, if it's clipping like we see here, we can see those high plateaus, probably gonna have to reshoot this because the distortion has already ruined the audio. But if it's too quiet, like this is a lot more quiet than these other videos. You can see these peaks, they're just a little bit lower. So there's a couple different ways we can do this. We can either click on the clip here, and you see this little bar that's stretching across. You can take that bar and you can drag it and change the audio volume that way, so up or down. Or if you don't kind of like that visual way of doing it, if you click the clip, you can go over here to our right side of the screen and you can decrease or increase the volume here as well. So those are some ways that you could potentially fix some audio that isn't quite consistent, because we definitely want to have a good, normal, consistent audio throughout in order to have the best professional quality audio that we can have. So those are the main points for the audio portion here, and I think that addresses a lot of the topics that we talked about in chat there.
Great. So I am requesting control of Nick's screen right now, and I'm going to talk about visuals next. So some of the things that I noticed were brought up in the chat were the video was not centered. Chastity and Emily brought that up. There was a strange angle at one point that Audrey and Melissa brought up. Catherine mentioned the vertical filming was questionable. So that's kind of all one issue. We kind of have an issue with the way that the visual presents itself on the screen. Then Megan brought up the really dark scene, which we can talk about as well. The lighting in that one scene, the social distancing scene, wasn't super great. And Joni was the one who noticed the contrast in the text during measure 4. So we'll also touch on text issues as well. So the first thing that I want to talk about is cropping. It can be great to change your angles in a video that you're shooting to keep things exciting and to change things up. And so I want to talk about that first. So I'm going to drag the playhead over to the one clip that we noticed was the biggest issue. Whoops, too far. Which is this one right here. So there it goes. Okay. So in this clip here, obviously I'm way off to the side. This is not how we want it to look. And fortunately, I remember when shooting this that it wasn't this bad. It might have been bad, but it wasn't this bad. So in order to crop, I can actually go up to this toolbar at the top here, and there is this cropping button that I can highlight. And so once I click on that, and then click on the image or the video that I'm trying to highlight, it's gonna bring up these boxes in the corners that we can use to re-crop the image or the video. So I'm just gonna click right away on this one and drag it out. And you can see that there's actually in this clip, fortunately for us, there is more clip there that we can use. So now that I've made it bigger, I can go back up to this top bar here and click off of the the cropping button and onto the cursor button again. And once I click on that, then that will give me the opportunity just to drag this back and reposition this as I want it to. So I can put this back where I need it to in the center of the screen. Oops. There we go. And this is a little bit more centered, looks a little bit better. So that is one thing that you can do, and it's good to change up your angles every now and again to keep visual interest if you're not always switching the scene and you're just potentially talking in the video. So that's one thing you can do to improve. So I would probably also do that if we were concerned about the vertical filming like Catherine mentioned, or the strange angle. Maybe we can crop that a different way to be able to resolve that concern. The second thing I wanted to talk about was the concern that Joni mentioned with the contrast of the text not being great during measure 4. You can see during measure 3 here, there's a white box on the back. It's pretty easy to read what is written here. But in measure 4, I'm going to drag the playhead over top of that clip. During measure 4, there's this text here, but it's kind of the same color as the sweater that I'm wearing. Doesn't really pop against the screen, and it is not uniform with the rest of the text. So creating that uniform text throughout will help you to ensure that your video looks more professional. So like Nick was mentioning before, over on this toolbar on the left, there are lots of different options over here, and we're going to use this annotations option that we're already in right now. So once I open that up, Right here in the middle, it gives me lots of different options of text boxes that I could use. So this box right here, the one that's highlighted, is the one that we've used in the past for the video. So I'm going to click and drag this box all the way down to the timeline. So I'm dragging it down and I'm going to just put it right above the other box that we had so that we know that it lasts the same duration as the initial box did. So now that I have that box there and the playhead is dragged right over top of the box, I can double click on the box that I've just added, just right on the preview screen. And once I double click on it, that's when it will give me the opportunity to edit the text. So I can just type in what I need to go here. Cover coughs and sneezes. Oops. Make sure I spell it correctly because that's one way it won't look professional. And then I can just go ahead and resize this box in any way that I need to so that it's uniform with the rest of the video. Oh. Nick, is your visual as bad as mine is?
Yeah, I mean, you just got to drag it.
Sorry, my screen just got really grainy and I can't really see what's going on.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's not like that for me, but I can,
Okay.
if you need me to take
Can
over.
you stop sharing and reshare?
Yeah, sure.
That'd be great. Sorry, y'all. Okay, that's a little bit better. So I'm just gonna resize this box the way that I want it to be. Nope, just move to the video. All right. Okay. Well, once we get this going, then I'm going to recenter the video that I just dragged. I'll recenter the box, and then I can just delete the other text box that was there by clicking on it and then using the delete button right on my computer. I'm going to click on it. I'm going to delete it. And then if I had more time, I would make sure that this was perfectly aligned. But for now, that's how you add a text box. It's easiest usually just to drag it down to the timeline and then double click on it in the preview screen in order to edit it. The last thing that I'm going to mention is the lighting that Megan talked about. There was this scene over here where John was on the couch and the lighting was just not great. Lighting is really tricky to actually go in and edit in a software program. It takes a lot of time and energy to learn. And so if I had this issue with lighting, I might just encourage reshooting that particular shot. If you are wanting to do really fancy lighting, the recommendations are that you have a key light that is off to the front of you. That's the brightest light that's shining on you. And then you have a light that's in front of you, but in the opposite corner that's a little bit lighter called a fill light, so that you're not getting quite as much shadows from your key light. You're getting a little bit of fill. And then they do recommend that opposite of your fill light behind you, you have a backlight so that you pop against your background. If you don't have all those lights, it's totally fine. You don't need all of that. I just recommend sitting in front of a window or trying to do it in some natural lighting, or when it's cloudy outside, or if you can find some other sort of lamp or something to provide some light for you. This is, like I said, tricky to edit, so I would just encourage that you just reshoot it potentially. All right, so I am curious if anyone feels confident in telling me how we can crop this scene here. I think this was another one folks mentioned that was really awkward. Does anyone want to unmute themselves and talk me through how you might crop this to make it look a little bit better? Okay.
You can use your crop tool up at the top.
Oh, thanks. Yep. Okay.
I would take out the really close red, whatever that is on the left.
Great.
Like the bath salts or whatever they are.
Okay. So if I click on this, then I can just use this side right here. Like I think it was Emily was saying, just to pull this in and get rid of this. Okay. Any other suggestions? I personally don't like this toothbrush holder right here, so I'm going to crop it a little bit more. So if we had a time, then I would resize this entire thing so that it exactly fit the screen perfectly. But right now we don't have that time, but you get the point. You can pull in these corners or the sides and reduce the size of your visual to be able to clean it up a little bit without having to hopefully reshoot every single time. So those are just 3 simple things that you can do with visuals. It's pretty easy to crop, and it's pretty easy to add text to your videos to make them a little bit more professional and take them to the next level. Lighting is one thing that's a little bit more tricky. I know it was mentioned, but sometimes I would just recommend reshooting, and that's something Jon is going to talk about coming up next. So I'm going to pass it over to Jon.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much. Nice job, Carissa. I'm going to request control now of Nick's screen.
All yours.
Okay, great. So yes, I've also been reviewing some of the observations that folks have made in chat about the questionable quality of our product here. And some of this stuff can be corrected, and some of it cannot, as Nick has described as well. Emily and Megan called out the fact that the hand washing portion of the video was excruciatingly long, and it is just about the longest clip time-wise in our bucket of clips here. So I'm highlighting the hand washing scene, and I'm pointing out also here in the middle bottom of the screen, there is a nice chunk of about 10 or 15 seconds where there's no sound whatsoever. And so this might be excessive. It's one thing to tell folks they need to wash their hands for 20 seconds. It's another to actually demonstrate washing your hands. You may have noticed that I washed my hands for so long that I ran out of soap and had to go get some more. So definitely more than what's needed. So this is going to be sort of a simple piece to correct. What I'm going to do is just single click on the clip itself. And you know what clip you're working with because it's highlighted in this yellow border. And what I need to do is right now, you can kind of think of these blocks, all of these audio, visual, and image blocks as just that, blocks or bricks. And so they are sort of firm objects that have sort of integrity to them. So we need to chop them up a little bit. And in order to do that, you highlight the clip in question, and then there's a toolbar in the middle part of the screen. And over to the left is this splitting button, split, and you can even tap the S key to use it too. So first I'm going to position my playhead to the correct place. I'm just going to drag it on over. And so at this point, because I'm not really working with any other elements, there's just nothing but black space in here. It's going to be pretty easy for me to just arbitrarily trim, let's say 10 seconds or so of that footage that we don't really need. What I will do is, now that my playhead is positioned, that's my designated spot where I want to execute my split. So I'll click the split button, and I'll drag my playhead away for just a moment. And now I have 2 bricks, right? And this one I can just throw out. So what I'm going to do is click it, highlight it, and I could tap the delete key on my keyboard, or I could just right click the brick. Now, that's not a trademark statement. And I'm going to just click delete in the menu. All right, now I called your attention earlier to empty spaces. What we have here is a silent black void in our video. Let me show you what I mean. This might even be more awkward than watching someone wash their hands. It's like the intermission in an old-time movie. So we need to close this gap. So all I need to do, I'm going to move my playhead out of the way. All I need to do is, first of all, recognize that all of these bricks or these tracks need to travel together to close the gap. So what I'm going to do is highlight them all just by clicking and dragging with my mouse. Okay. And now I have multiples that are all highlighted in yellow, right? And they're going to march backwards for me and meet up with the last bit of footage. Big hard yellow line there. Now I know I don't have any gaps. And also, nice thing is, yeah, I have a little bit of silence here in the audio, Nick's voiceover, but that's okay. A little silence in the transition is going to be a good thing. Now, before we go any further, any questions about anything I've done, go ahead and post those in chat. We'll read them out. And speaking of chat, the other main issue that was identified in terms of editing was, well, really a clip that is just a real problem child. Social distancing here, where I was sitting on the sofa next to my stepdaughter's unicorn. And it was pointed out by Megan that this shot is really dark. Carissa noticed that too. Obviously, you need a time machine and some lighting adjustment to really fix this. There are some things you can do with the brightness of an image, but this one might be beyond redemption. It was also pointed out that there's some background sound. And since all the audio is in the voiceover track, you may need to re-record the voiceover too. That motorcycle might be a little hard to scrub out of Nick's voiceover. But in any case, I've made the editorial decision that I'm going to remove this entirely. And I'm just going to remind you what we talked about at the top of our presentation, which is video production is a multi-step process. And fortunately, in my planning and budgeting for this project, I have some alternate shots. So I'm going to go back to the upper left portion of my screen, go to my media bin, click it. And I'm going to find take two, social distancing take two. I'm hovering over it right now. Great. So first I need to remove the old one, and you already know how to do that. Right click to delete. Now, deleting this material removes it from the actual video project, but it does not remove it from my library. I can always go grab it later if I need to. But in any case, I'm going to grab my social distancing take, and I'm going to drag it down into that empty spot that I just vacated. Oh, and here we learn that we hired some alternate actors for this replacement shot. Now I'm getting a warning here about my frame rate, which discussing frame rate is going to be a little bit out of the scope of this particular presentation. Just know that, you see FPS stands for frames per second. It's asking me if I want to have the same number of frames per second throughout my video, and I'm just going to say yes. I'll click on continue. All right, so I want to drag this brick right over here, and I'm already giving away the drama of this particular scene. I'll play it for you.
Measure 2. Avoid close contact. Stay at home whenever you can. Put as much distance between yourself and non-household members as much as possible. The CDC recommends a distance of at least 6 feet.
Okay,
Measure
so
3.
a couple things you may have noticed. The replacement track is shorter than the original track. We didn't just do a reshoot, we did a replacement shot. And so for that reason, there's going to be some black screen time in this presentation. So, or in this video. So there's going to be one of two solutions. You may insert a placeholder image here, as we saw Carissa do earlier. You may actually re-record the voiceover in order to match the runtime of the new clip that you've put in. But just need to understand that there's many moving parts here, and they all need to work together. Last thing I'll point out, did everyone notice the real high scratching sound of the young man moving across the couch? I'm just going to use Nick's trick to mute all of the audio. Silence audio. Get rid of that scratching sound as he moves. But I'm still not done, am I? No, I've got some more work to do in terms of making this a cohesive product. It's basically, I need to fill this black space with something. But I think after what you've seen here, you understand interface-wise how it can be done. Last thing, I probably should have mentioned this at the outset, but the tool that we're demonstrating for you, Camtasia, this is a tool that the three of us mutually agreed on as an effective tool. It's a good one. There's a lot of others out there. They have a lot of similar functionality, and we just want to make it known this is not an endorsement of a product, and we're not like paid to endorse this particular software, but we just thought it's a good way to show that there's a lot of easy steps to using some of this software that might be a little bit intimidating. And so that sort of ends the strictly technical portion of our presentation. And I'm going to invite everyone to post any questions in chat that they'd like answered at this point. Give you a minute for that.
So,
Right.
yeah,
Go ahead, Carissa.
Yeah, the next thing I wanted to talk about is actually in your handout. So if you happen to have the handout, you can pull it up, but I'm also just going to pull it up on my screen so that you can see it as well. I want you to just grab a piece of paper or your phone or whatever and just jot down the answers to these 3 questions. We're hoping that you came to this presentation because you were hoping to learn something from it or get something from it. And so with all of us in a very different work situation potentially than we have been in the past, I want us to think through, how is this applicable for us? How could we maybe use this? And it might not happen within the scope of work. It might happen in our personal lives as well. So just think through, how might you be able to integrate video creation into your work or into your life? And just jot the answers down, type them into your phone, think through it. The second question we have is, what further research, if any, do you need to do before you can get started? So think through that or jot it down. And then finally, what equipment do you need to get started? If you wouldn't mind sharing your answer to the first question in chat, we would love to hear some of those, how you think you might be able to use video creation, either in your work or your personal life. But another word just about equipment. I know that Nick mentioned earlier, it could be helpful to have really professional equipment if you're looking to create lots of videos. And John mentioned that Camtasia is just one of the tools you can use. I actually, when I said I recorded YouTube videos, I do it all on my iPhone just because that's what's easiest and most accessible to me. And so there are definitely different programs that you can use, simple tools you can use that if you have a smartphone, that it all exists there as well. So I don't want you to feel overwhelmed by the software that we used if you don't have access to it or it seems like a lot, because there are also other tools you can use and find the answers to how to use really quickly. All right, we have some people sharing in the chat. Brittany says, my organization is interested in developing more videos to share content on social media. That's great. Joni says, mini lecture videos, introductions to projects and courses, or welcome to course program videos, digital storytelling. Yeah, I love that idea. And I think digital storytelling can happen like within a course or within your work, but can also happen other places, just like personally sharing on social media, like Brittany was saying, or just even with friends and family who you might not be able to see as often.
Yeah, maybe you want to share your great, your cat videos during quarantine. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, and I can say that as a consumer of educational material, it really does help to at least have a little bit of connection with the instructor. You know, whether it's a little bit of FaceTime, a personal introduction at the top of your videos, or a new assignment. I've always enjoyed just sort of a quick clip from an instructor saying, hey, welcome back, et cetera, et cetera. Perhaps some personal detail. It's like, let's get back to work. I do enjoy that.
Thanks for sharing, everyone. So before we actually get to answering some questions, if you have them at the end, or sending you all the evaluations so you could give us some feedback about this presentation, I'm going to turn it over to Nick. For the magic of this webinar, we did all the things that we would have edited using the tools that we taught you, and we wanted to show you what this video could look like after it was edited and hopefully improved upon a little bit. So I'm going to turn it over to Nick to share that video with all of us.
Perfect. So here's our final product. I'm gonna leave the tracks on the bottom. You can kind of see some differences there. You can see differences in spacing with these things that we talked about, some of our fixes, and yeah, hopefully it sounds a little better this time. Due to the rapid spread of COVID-19 coronavirus, employers must take precautionary measures to protect themselves and others. This video serves as a reminder to our employees to always follow the Big Five from the Center for Disease Control. Clean your hands often. Wash your hands for 20 seconds, especially after visiting a public place. Use soap and water. If soap and water is not available, use a hand sanitizer that contains at least 60% alcohol. Measure 2. Avoid close contact. Stay at home whenever you can. Put as much distance between yourself and non-household members as much as possible. The CDC recommends a distance of at least 6 feet. Measure 3. Cover your mouth and nose with a cloth face cover when around others. Remember, the cloth mask is not a substitute for social distancing. Measure 4. Cover coughs and sneezes. Remember to use a tissue or the inside of your elbow to cover coughs and sneezes. Wash your hands immediately after coughing or sneezing. Measure 5. Clean and disinfect. Frequently touched surfaces should be disinfected daily. These include items such as doorknobs, light switches, counters, handles, phones, keyboards, mice, and sinks. Most household disinfectants will work just fine. We thank you for your efforts in preventing the spread of COVID-19. Please refer to the CDC website for additional information on the virus and more in-depth precautionary measures. So, not a perfect Stanley Kubrick video, but much, much better than our original video with all those fixes.
Yeah, and really that's the goal of this. Is none of us are probably going to be video professionals in just 1 hour of learning a little bit about it, but we hope that you've gained some tools to be able to utilize in your own context and in your own spaces to be able to create some videos that are impactful and help others to learn things or to teach things or just to share things about your life or interesting things in general. So we have about 6 minutes left and we are going to hang out here to answer any questions. So you can type those in the chat or you can unmute yourself if you feel comfortable and share any questions. As we're doing that, I'm also going to post the link to the evaluation in the chat as well. If you wouldn't mind just clicking on that link and filling it out, it's about 5 quick questions just to kind of gauge how you felt like the presentation went and what you learned and what you would have liked to have seen more of. That way, as we are thinking about giving this presentation in the future or sharing this information in the future, we're able to incorporate all of that feedback that you're able to provide for us. So we have 5 minutes. We wanted to leave that time for questions at the end. So type questions in the chat or unmute yourselves and we'll be happy to answer those.
Carissa, while we wait for questions, I'm going to repost our poll from the top of the hour. On a scale of 1 to 10, how you feel now? Ooh. Well, either you're all trying to make us feel a little bit better about ourselves or the needle has moved in the right direction. We still don't have any Kubricks, as Nick's predicted, but people are feeling a lot more comfortable now. All right, so not seeing any questions in chat. Everyone here is going to get a follow-up email with links to, oh, by the way, Carissa, you did post the evaluation. Okay. So at this point, with 4 minutes to go, we're just going to thank you. We appreciate you joining us and participating in this little webinar. We hope we have achieved our goal of making people feel a bit more comfortable. I definitely want to reiterate what's been said about the fact that this is just one tool and there are many out there, different price points, including free software. And personally, I mean, I'll just share, yes, I did purchase Camtasia because I'm a student in this program. It was worth it to me. But beyond that, I purchased about a $15 tripod, and I used lighting solutions in my house to shoot my replacement shot, just basically lamps without the shade, and actually a silver sunshade from my car to gather some light, and I shot it on my cell phone. So pretty low price of entry if you're doing this on your own, or even if your organization needs to pivot in this direction.
Yeah, I wanted to thank everyone for coming as well. In terms of tools that I use, again, shared my iPhone. I bought, because I knew I would start doing YouTube videos, I bought like a $20 ring light on Amazon. That's been really great. You might be able to see the reflection of it in my glasses. And then I have like a tiny little tripod, but I actually didn't even use any of that for the clips I shot. I propped my iPhone up on a ledge and didn't have any special lighting in front of a window. So there's definitely not a lot that you need in terms of being able to produce something that's at least consumable for other people and can look semi-professional. So thank you again for coming. And Nick, if you've got any thoughts.
Yeah, absolutely. Just piggybacking on that, I think, you know, there's great professional equipment out there, but play with what you have first and really get the basics down before investing that money. Because I've definitely done that before, where I was like, oh, I'm ready to take the plunge and buy something more expensive, and then I get it and I'm like, I don't know how to use this, and I don't use it. So it's better to kind of play around with what you have first and kind of get comfortable, and then maybe you can make that investment further down the road when if you actually still need those you know, the professional equipment. So, but yeah, thank you so much for being here. Yeah, it was a pleasure, and you guys were awesome with participating and giving us lots to talk about. So yeah, we really appreciate you.
Yeah, thanks everyone. We'll hang out for the next 2 minutes if you want to stay on and ask questions.
Or share cat videos or whatever.
Yeah, whatever. Otherwise, yeah, thanks for being here.
Thanks, everybody.